With more on the situation in the UK, we're joined on the phone with Nile Gardiner. He is the director of the Margaret Thatcher Center and a senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation here in Washington, D.C. And right now, looking at the numbers, they appear to be grim across Great Britain. What are you seeing and hearing?
Yeah, I think, the UK is facing a crisis pretty much on the same scale as the United States per capita. I think that, the United Kingdom faces all of the same issues that the United States is facing today, of course, with a growing number of cases, a growing death toll, which has risen today to about just over 12,000. And the United Kingdom, of course, also faces the same debate the United States faces over when to reopen, how swiftly the UK economy can be reopened. And I think that all of the issues the United States is facing today are the same issues being faced by the United Kingdom. So a very, very similar overall trajectory, I think.
And the Associated Press reporting on what they describe as devastation in Great Britain's nursing homes. We, of course, are seeing the same in many states here in the U.S. Yes, exactly. I think that the United Kingdom has a very significant elderly population, as does the United States. I think that nursing homes, retirement homes have been particularly hard hit by the coronavirus, and I think that the United Kingdom is facing the same adversity that all of the major European countries are facing, in addition to the United States as well. And of course, one of the big differences is British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who himself is recovering from COVID-19. I know he is a close friend and associate of yours. How is he doing?
Well, actually, Boris Johnson is doing very well, thankfully. Last week was an extremely dangerous time when Boris Johnson was moved into an intensive care unit. He was fortunately not placed on a respirator, but there was a great deal of concern over the Prime Minister's condition last week. Fortunately, he's now out of hospital. He is recuperating in his country residence at Chequers, just outside of London. And I think Boris Johnson faced the fight of his life here. Many of his closest aides were deeply concerned over the situation with Boris last week. He has made, I think, a stunning recovery, and hopefully he'll be back at the helm in Downing Street within the course of the next few weeks or so. But at the moment, he's recovering. But I expect that no major decisions in the UK that will be taken without Boris Johnson's involvement. He did send a message to the British people earlier this week, and I think that it will just be a matter of weeks before he is, I think, physically back in control in Downing Street. But certainly, a miraculous recovery, I think, for Boris Johnson, and he really did face, I think, a life and death situation just a few days ago. And so his emphatic or tremendous recovery actually really is a cause of great inspiration, I think, for the British people.
We're talking with Nile Gardiner of the Heritage Foundation, but did his hospitalization in any way delay the leadership required to deal with COVID-19 across Great Britain?
I don't think it did. So temporarily we have Dominic Raab, the Foreign Secretary, standing in for the Prime Minister. But in terms of the big decisions that have to be taken with regard to reopening the British economy, for example, when people will be going back to work and so on, I do think the Prime Minister will be taking those big decisions. So I think his very brief absence has not created a vacuum at the heart of government. I think the British government runs very efficiently, and you do have a very good team of people in place, not only, of course, Dominic Raab, but also the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, Michael Gove, the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster. You have a very good team, I think, in place that can stand in where needed for the Prime Minister. But I do think the biggest decisions that Britain will be facing in the next few weeks will, though, be taken directly by the Prime Minister himself.
And finally, bottom line, the President here in this country wants to reopen our economy in early May. What timeline do you think you could see in Great Britain?
I think that, certainly the British government wants to be able to reopen the country as soon as possible. At the same time, though, it is facing
without a doubt, I mean, the greatest crisis since World War II. And I think the government is going to be thinking very, very carefully about an exact date to end the countrywide lockdown. No date has yet been set by the British government. Certainly, I think they'll be closely watching what other European countries do and also what the United States does. But I think that the Prime Minister will make a decision that is based upon the best of advice of his medical and scientific advisors, but also a decision is necessary as well in order to put the British economy back on its feet. And I think he'll be weighing up all of the advice that he receives, and he'll be making, I think, the best decision that is in the interest of the British people, protecting the health and well-being of the British population, while also ensuring that the economy is able to recover swiftly.
Especially having gone through the battles of dealing with COVID-19.
Yes, absolutely. I think he has personally lived through this crisis. He has survived, and I think the Prime Minister fully understands the gravity of what the British people are facing today. And I think that the fact that the Prime Minister is increasingly, I think, popular with the British people is a demonstration of the tremendous confidence that the British public has in the Prime Minister. And I think his leadership so far, his handling of the crisis, has been supported by the vast majority of the British public.
Nile Gardiner is the director of the Margaret Thatcher Centre for Freedom, a senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation. His work available at heritage.org. We thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.